All right, my computer says 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Good morning, everybody. My name is Noah Newman, technology editor with Strip Till Farmer, and welcome to this Strip Till Farmer digital demo, Optimizing Strip Till, a review of Ingersoll and Bellota products. And you'll see our panel here with us today is Steve Kertesz, North American Product Manager for Ingersoll Tillage Group. We also have Dave Cinder from Environmental Tillage Systems, Scott S. Miller from Kuhn, and Andy Thompson from Yetter. So they'll be talking about some new tools and attachments to help boost your strip till operation. And a quick reminder, if you have any questions, we have the Q&A box there at the bottom of your screen. If you move your cursor down there, you'll see it pop up. You can type your questions in there, and we'll get them answered throughout the presentation. So without further ado, Steve, I'll hand it over to you. Take it away.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I'd like to extend a welcome to everybody today. As mentioned, my name's Steve Kertesz. I'm with Agrisolutions of the no-tillage Group. We're a manufacturer of all things ground engaging. So disc blades, points, sweeps, shovels, tines. If it's touching the ground, we're either making it or sourcing it somewhere. A little bit about our products and our location. We've got a global presence. We've got manufacturing facilities in North America, one in Canada, where I'm based out of, one in Illinois. We've got facilities in Brazil and Argentina, plants in Spain, Germany, and India. And the purpose of that is so that we can support our partners, three of which are here with us today, globally, wherever they need us to be. That's where we're at. We are probably the largest supplier to the vast majority of OEMs globally. Some of the guys that we deal with, obviously AGCO, CNH, John Deere, and our good friends that are with us today, Yetter and Kuhn, and ETS, among others. What I'd like to spend a couple minutes on, again, I'm steel. We make the disc blades. We make the product that goes on the tools that these gentlemen are going to talk about. Now, we equate it kind of like tires on your car. You really don't think of them until there's a problem. And I was reminded of that from one of our guests, Scott, the other day when we had a little chat. It's all fine and well to have the car that's driving well, but when you get the flat tire or it's constantly damaged and it's creating a problem, well, now you're concerned about it. So that's kind of what we think about our product. You don't think about it till you need it. So if you've got a broken blade on a disc harrow and you have to change that, well, now you're thinking about that disc. If you've got a worn out opener assembly on your planter and it's not giving you the longevity you want out of it, well, now you're thinking about that. So that's where we come in. We are a pioneer in the industry. We pioneered boron into making of disc blades in North America. That's an additive that adds a lot of longevity to the product, and it makes it probably the toughest and highest quality product you can bake. The vast majority of manufacturers globally now do use that in their product. If you're not buying something that has a boron additive to it or a base to it, it's an inferior product. So and you really want to stay away from that. What we pride ourselves on is our metallurgy. The product that we supply our OEMs and partners with is a proprietary boron alloy. There's only a handful of steel mills globally that can manufacture it to our standard. There are some that wanted to do it, have tried to do it, but because it's our formulation, if they can't make it to our standard, they have to scrap it. And that's a lot of money that down the tube that they don't want to spend. Again, product reliability is key to us. Everything has to pass standards. So one of the industry standards is a ball test, where you take a disc blade and you drill a half-inch hole in it and you force a 1-inch ball bearing through that hole, and you analyze what that looks like. Does it mushroom out? Does it crack the disc? Does the paint chip off? So there's a number of measurements that you do on that to ensure that it's making quality product that our OEMs and eventually you will be pleased to use. Another standard in the industry is a deflection test, where we'll take a 24-inch full concave blade, like you see right here, we'll drop a hammer on that edge, and we'll take all the concavity out of that blade and bend it onto itself. We measure that in cycles. Typically, it has to go through 800 cycles before failure, or it does not pass our test. A lot of product in the marketplace will not meet that standard, and that's the kind of thing you're out in rocky conditions or abrasive soils and it's wearing or it's breaking. Again, like that tire. Now I got a problem I got to deal with. We also have a significant commitment to innovation in the industry. As I mentioned, we pioneered boron in the industry. We also pioneered what's called the manufacturing process of dyes, where we set ourselves across from everybody else's. If you look at metal, metal has a shape, and it always wants to return to that mother shape. So when you're going to form a blade into a different shape, not flat anymore, you're fighting what the metal wants to do. It wants to go back to that flat state. So if you form it and then you just quench it in water or oil, you're giving it time for that metal to relax and maybe go back to that old shape. But if as you're forming it, you lock it into that shape, you've changed its memory. So now it is that shape. And that's key. And that's one of the things our partners are pleased with, and one of the reasons why they stick with us. Another innovation that we came up with, we're the first to pioneer CNC machining lathes in our facilities with vision that allows us to precision edge every product that we make here. It's got unlimited potential for edges. And because of that, we were able to pioneer what's called the residue razor edge in the industry. It is the sharpest blade you can purchase anywhere globally. It was designed to cut the heavy residues we're seeing now in BT crops and slice it better than anything else. As you can see in this blow-up diagram, that's how sharp the tolerance on that edge is. It's actually, the tolerance starts at 0 and goes out to a tolerance of 1 mil. Again, extremely innovative. Other thing that we've come up with is what we call infinium. That's our next level of steel. This will yield a blade with 55 Rockwell. Rockwell is the hardness that we talk about. That's kind of the sweet spot where you want to say, I want it to last as long as possible without breaking. And once you come above that 55 points, now you're getting into a problem where you might get breakage because it becomes too hard. So that's our latest innovation that you're going to start seeing in the marketplace soon. Additionally, we've got new designs coming out. This is a specific one of a scallop notch blade that comes in a coulter form that you'll see on a lot of the tools coming out this coming year. It's based off of the old scallop knife that you see in the kitchen. It's designed to shed matter. So wet soils, sticky soils will not stick to this blade. So in some applications, you won't need scrapers, or your gauge wheels will not have impact resistance to this product. Now, let's get into a little bit, maybe a minute or two, of some of the product that you're going to see on some of the machines that are going to be featured here today. Flat coulters. What they're designed to do, their aggressiveness is not very aggressive, but they're very good in fertilizer applications and in residue management. So that's one of the products you're going to see offered by a number of the units that are being presented today. Rippled coulters is another option that is available to you through these units, or if you're looking to change something out. Again, aggressiveness, not very aggressive, but very good in fertilizer and residue management. Wavy coulters, you're going to see a mixture of those on your units. I guess very aggressive, good residue management, excellent for dry, sandy, and heavy soils. Similarly is the 8-wave that you're going to see as well. And of course, plain concave discs and notch concave discs. Now, I'd like to stop boring you to death talking about metal and bring you into to talk with some of our guests today who are going to talk about those products and their applications, what their units can do for you, why they've got these innovations in them to help you in your farming operations be successful, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the issues they've seen that they've addressed. And I encourage you to ask your questions even during the presentations. If you're seeing something that interests you, please raise your hand and we'll get those questions answered right away. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Scott from Kuhn to talk a little bit about their products and the Gladiator.
Just a second here. I'm getting set up. Okay. Can you now see my screen, Steve? Okay. All right. Hi, my name is Scott S. Miller. I'm a product specialist here at Kuhn Krause. Thank you for the opportunity to visit this morning about strip-till and our synergies with Agrisolutions and specifically Ingersoll in relation to the products that they supply for us for the Gladiator 1210 ST Pro 2 row unit. Before I talk about the row unit, I feel like we need to talk a little bit about the history of strip-till and why strip-till exists and why it's a growing practice in the United States and in the world, really. In talking about the history of strip-till, I have to talk about the history a little bit of no-till, which started in the mid-'60s in Ohio. And it was slow to take off, and it didn't really start gaining traction until a chemical that we all know as glyphosate got developed in the mid-'70s. And after the mid-'70s, things started picking up with no-till and kind of started blossoming into the '80s. And why farmers move towards no-till? Well, they wanted to increase their soil tilth and organic matter and make their soils healthier to hopefully increase the yields and return on investment for that land. A big driver was a decrease in soil erosion. Also, for years, even since the dirty 30s, we've fought soil erosion with wind and also water. Also, farmers were wanting to have less compaction in their fields, as well as they wanted the time savings that came along with no-till. Less passes, you could farm more land with less equipment and less diesel fuel. Some of the challenges of no-till have been, and one of the largest ones is the placement of P and K into the soil, because of no-till, most fertilizers were broadcast applied, and nitrogen does move with water down into the soil, so that wasn't a real problem. But the P and K remained on top and was not available to the plant. So that was affecting yields and profitability on ground, as well as cold soils that delayed planting because of the mat of residue insulated the ground. So in the spring, when conventional tilled soils were warming up and guys were being able to plant, the no-till guys were being delayed by those cold temperatures. Surface residue also interfered with planter performance and seed to soil contact, again, reducing yields and the health of the plant. Finally, in the last 20 or so years, herbicide resistance has really played a big part in some of no-till's hiccups. And so that's some of the things to think about. And then right around 1990, strip-till arrived. And it had some really good advantages. We still had it was good for the soil tilth and organic matter because you were still retaining quite a bit of the residue. It was very effective at reducing soil erosion and compaction. And there was still time savings in that there was less passes in the field, less use of fuel. But more importantly, we finally were able to get that P and K where the plant needs it incorporated into the soil so it was available to the plant. On top of that, the strips were just like similar to the conventional till. We had a strip of tilled soil, so we got warmer in the spring for earlier planting. Now that didn't come without some challenges. Early on in the market, there was very few commercial units available on the market. Farmers were largely putting together units themselves and piecing bits of things here and there and making homemade units. So that was one of the challenges. With those units, a lot of them were very difficult to adjust for changing conditions. And in a lot of cases, they only worked in certain conditions or regions. And also there was a lot of maintenance required, lots of grease zerks, lots of bearings. And on top of it, probably one of the biggest challenges was the inconsistent performance of the early units. So around 2005, Kuhn-Krause started looking into the market. It was getting to be a fairly established market, and it looked like it's something that's going to stay with us. But we went out and started looking at what can we do to make things better. And so we went out and we talked to growers and producers that were already strip tilling, and we listened to what they wanted and needed to have a better strip till unit out there. So we started developing something that took a lot of the concerns of the current equipment and we wanted to make a solution for that. So when we did that, we also wanted to build a very high quality product that performed consistently. So that kind of leads us to the part where we started partnering up with the Ingersoll, which we already had a relationship with, but we were already used to their high quality products. And we knew that their steel formulations were right on. That coulter is going to maintain sharpness. It's not going to bend or break. So that's part of our process. And we want to deliver a product that gives the customer the best possible experience, the highest return on investment. And that's with high wear life and things that maintain their sharpness. So now we'll just now that I've kind of said all that, we'll go and talk about the row unit itself. And looking at the row unit, just to start out here, I just want to clarify how the unit works and how our depth control system works. The tool is the row unit's mounted on a toolbar. And that toolbar is always 29 inches off the ground. So between the toolbar and the rear reel is our knife. And basically, the rear reel serves as our other gauge wheel. So we have a very consistent knife depth and a very consistent placement of fertilizer into the strip. So I'm going to go from the front to the back and just go over some of the points and high points of the unit. Starting out with the front, we've got the coulter. It's an independently mounted 25-inch Ingersoll coulter, and it can move upward if it gets an obstruction or a rock. It's got a double spring down pressure adjustment from 460 to 660 pounds, so it's able to get over things without damaging the coulter itself. And it has adjustable scrapers to clean the soil from the blade to prevent plugging. Then we go back to the floating row cleaners. It's a 16-inch notch disc, also Ingersoll. Every blade I'm going to talk about here is an Ingersoll blade, but the notches on the row cleaner are to ensure rotation. It automatically adjusts to the field contours as it floats through the field. And the way that we adjust its aggressiveness is you can change the number of blades that are mounted to that row cleaner. Oops, sorry. Here we go. And now the shank itself, it's a wrench-free adjustment, and the way that it works is it can go from 6 inches to 12 inches, and I can do the adjustments in just a matter of a few seconds. On the point end, we have two different points available. We have a chromium carbide point that provides maximum life in regular soils, and then we have a rock point that's a less hard steel that works better in rocky soils where the chromium carbide one could shatter or chip. That point does a lot of things for us. It removes the root zone compaction. It promotes water infiltration and deep root growth as well as seed development. But the most important part is probably the optimum nutrient placement. Going to nutrient placement, we'll talk about our drop zone nutrient placement system. This fertilizer system can band in fertilizer anywhere from 5 to 11 inch depths with a minimum of 1.5 inches between the products. It's independent of the knife depth, so I can move those tubes up and down and put fertilizer anywhere into the seed bed zone. We can also deliver any two products into this zone, whether it be anhydrous, liquid, or dry fertilizer. Our closing blades are 16-inch closing blades, and they're adjustable to help create a uniform berm. The way that they're adjustable is we have a float limit. The arms float, and we have a 3-position handle there that can adjust the amount of upward movement of the blade. That, along with the addition of the blade angle, we also have 3 different positions of 2 degrees, 10 degrees, or 18 degrees. That can help you form any kind of berm you want. Some people want it a little bit less aggressive and not as high. Others want a very aggressive tall berm, and we can do that easily with that system. Rounding out the package then is the Striker Soil Conditioner. It's a patented chain reel technology that breaks up clods without destroying the berm. It's an 18-inch reel with 10 individual chain sections on it. The chain sheds wet soil and residue for the optimum seed bed without plugging. And I've seen this in the field. The only time I've seen these plug guys is with like a steel fence post that somehow got left in the field, or a large log that jammed in the chains. But otherwise, if you're talking wet soils, you can't plug these. Now, as to the models available, nope, I can't get that to move. There we go. We have a number of different 3-point mounted models from 4-row all the way to 16-row. Of course, we have the most common spacing, 30 inches, obviously the most common for the large part of the United States. But for areas that have bedded seed beds, we have 36, 38, and 40-inch spacings. On the pull-type models, those are 30-inch spacing only, and we have Gladiators available from 8-row to 16-row, but we also have a 24-row available with a partner-supplied toolbar. For more information on this machine or any other Kuhn machine, please visit us on the web at kuhn.com. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the ST2 Pro row unit this morning and what makes it unique and successful for a wide variety of farms. I'm going to hand it over to Dave now, so that concludes my presentation.
Thanks, Scott. I'll get my presentation up here in a second. All right. Appreciate that. I'm glad you touched on some of the history of strip till. Very beneficial. So ETS as a company, we kind of got started around that same time frame. In fact, we're actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. We were started out on a farm in southern Minnesota. Is still a farmer. Long story short, he wanted something that would work, and highly variable soils, highly variable conditions. And long story short, Soil Warrior is what he came up with. Much like Kuhn-Krause, we started off with Ingersoll blades from pretty much from the get-go as well. I'll talk here mostly about the blade side of things. We are predominantly a Coulter company. We do have shank units, but the majority of the units we have running are Coulter-based units. Much like probably most manufacturing business, your 3 points, we have pull behinds, we do dries, we do liquids, 4 rows to 24 rows, 22s, 20s, and again, even the 36, 38, 40s, etc. So depending on crop type, etc. So a lot of versatility there. Let's see here. I'm going to move on to the next one here if I can. There we go. So these are just a couple pictures of the units we have. If you notice here on here is the 3-point unit. Predominantly, we're 12 and 16 rows on that. Our units are very versatile, so if you want to change between rows, 8s, 12s, etc., it's pretty easy to do so. But as you can see here, and Steve had the picture of our X row unit, which has been our longest lived row unit. We've had that pretty much from the get-go. As you can see, what's ground engaging is 3 wavy coulters. And really what I wanted to touch on today, like Steve said, the coulters, sometimes maybe it doesn't sound all that exciting, but I mean, really that's what's doing the bulk, if really not all your work, from not only doing your tillage, but again, that fertilizer incorporation. One of the things Scott touched on was fertilizer incorporation with a knife. It's more of a banding, whereas our fertilizer application is blended throughout that strip. So depending on how deep you're running and how wide you have that strip, you're gonna have fertilizer incorporated throughout that entire zone. Same thing as far as adjustability goes. You've got the ability to adjust berm height, width, etc., playing with some different settings. But to really touch on we've used a lot of different coulter types over the years. And in fact, some growers actually might adjust their coulter usage based on what that year is throwing at them. So for example, this year, most areas it's been really dry. So they might opt for something more aggressive, like an 8-wave coulter, for example. If there's some penetration challenges, maybe they'll opt for something, go with a 13-wave. There's directional coulters, there's different types of waves, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of different ways to. So as a company, we, as part of our setup and part of our advice, counseling, if you will, when we're working with growers, we do take all those things into consideration, set them up with the coulter type, again, waves, etc. That's going to work best. So I do have customers that again, they might change from year to year. When you look at the row unit, the front of the row unit, the blades are actually our own blades there, and then same thing with these, what we call containment coulters. They're just it's just an AR 400 blade, though steel, I should say. Those blades are not doing any tillage. They're simply containing your soil and helping give you your blending and mixing your fertilizer. Let's see here, go to the next one. I guess this just kind of touches on what I was just talking about as far as the different types of coulters. We always carry a lot of coulters on hand and a lot of different types of coulters to address and be able to service as need be. So, as a company, I like to think that we have a lot of experience when it comes to different soil types and things of that nature that really, I would say, makes us kind of the expert with regards to really giving you the best chance of success when it comes to strip till. Where we've placed machines, we've placed machines from all the way from the state of Washington down to Florida. So throughout pretty much all of North America, US and Canada, as well as internationally, we've got Zimbabwe and Australia and New Zealand. So when it comes to different soil types, everything from pure sand to essentially volcanic ash, everything in between. So it's allowed us to really test those coulters and see which ones are working best. And the years, Ingersoll has been great to work with. Actually, Steve and I go quite a ways back, where way back, I did a lot of our purchasing and stuff. So I got to know a lot of these types of things pretty intimately. Like Steve said, might not sound all that, they say, but it's a very important part of the unit. So other than that, that's all I got for now. And again, I appreciate to come on and speak with everybody with Lessiter Media, and yeah, if you got questions, raise your hand and let us know. We're here to and help you out any way we can. Now, I think Andy with Yetter is up next.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Let's see if I can get this set up here. There we go. Can we see everything all right? No?
No, not your screen yet. Not your presentation.
I'm back up here. Okay, how about now?
Yeah, we can see it, Andy.
Okay, great. Okay, so my name is Andy Thompson with Yetter Farm Equipment. I've been with Yetter for 23 years, and I've had the opportunity to be on many farms and work with many people across North America in regards to strip till. And actually, I say 23 years with Yetter, but really Yetter and myself, both our experience with strip till precludes that. So Yetter's been in the strip till business actually even since the late 80s, early 90s. I think 1993 is when we started building a dedicated strip till row unit. So I think that oftentimes I find that when I talk to a farmer about strip till, it seems as though that everybody understands and knows what strip till is. But interestingly enough, when I ask them what strip till is, a lot of times they will point to a machine. And so really, I guess what I'm going to talk a little bit about is maybe take a step back and understand, kind of from a broader perspective, what strip till is, and then kind of narrow down maybe even some of the challenges and addressing some of the challenges that we see with strip till. So for me, I guess this is a definition that I have evolved. I've changed it a little bit over time, but that's the interesting thing that I've always said about strip till is if you want to look it up in the dictionary, you're not going to find a definition of strip till. So really, I've tried to come up with a definition, and so my definition, as you see there, it's a farming system that manages residue and provides controlled seedbed preparation to create the ideal seed growing environment in the specific zones within the field. Of course, the specific zones we think of as the strips. So perhaps as important as the words that I choose to put in that definition may also be just as important as the words I don't have in there. So sometimes if I ask somebody what the definition of strip till is, they'll talk about how wide a strip is or how deep a strip is, how much tillage we're doing in that strip. And really, as far as definition is concerned, I refrain from doing that because I only strip 6 inches deep or I'm only 8 inches wide or something, does that make me not a strip till? Of course not. So I don't have anything about fertilizer in here in my definition, but obviously fertilizer application makes a lot of sense and really is oftentimes a part. It's just that we don't have to apply fertilizer in order to be a strip tiller, but it oftentimes does make a lot of sense. So and really along with that, goals, when we talk about the planter, goals of seedbed preparation on our planter: perfect seed to soil contact, consistent seed bed, good growing environment for each one of our seeds. Those are all things that really, when the planter hits, those are the things that we're concentrating on. And our strip till, being a complete system, needs to be, feeding into that as well. So really, to understand the full scope of strip till, like I said, if we take we back up a little bit and we understand really that definition and the entire scope of strip till, I think a lot of times then that will help us to better address our strip till. And so, of course, if we're looking to get into strip till, we don't necessarily have to have all of the details figured out when we get into that. But I think that it is important to understand the large scope of strip till, so that we know how to gauge our performance and really address all of our needs there. So if you're already a strip tiller, some of this information here maybe will help to evolve your system. I said I've been around strip till for 23, 25 years actually. Since I started farming, I do farm a little bit myself, and since I started farming, I've always utilized strip till practices. But on my farm, and the gentleman that I work with, we have certainly evolved our strip till, and so really just always trying to gauge our performance, our successes, our struggles, and then trying to address that. So some of the challenges of strip till. So if we talk to, a lot of times if we're looking to get into strip till, maybe we go to a conference or seminar and we talk with people that have been strip tilling. And, not to be a doom and gloom, but a lot of times, there are some challenges that people will talk about with their strip till system. And really, a lot of those challenges that people refer back to, experienced strip tillers refer back to, is oftentimes management and time. And so, those are a couple things I guess that I kind of want to address here a little bit. Management. What does the management mean? I heard one gentleman one time, he was doing a presentation on strip till. I think he had 7 keys to strip till. One of those keys was talent. And what he meant by that is the management, the operation, actually, in the field, doing the ground engaging, doing those application methods there. And he was referring to talent is how difficult that pass really truly was. And if I have a retail business and I decide that I need to hire some more people, if I need a checkout clerk, then perhaps I'm looking to hire somebody that's going to stand there. They're going to be able to scan barcodes. They're going to be able to hit the enter button, on the cash register, run the credit card machine, that sort of thing. That's fairly easy to do, and so you can hire somebody to do that. But if I'm going to hire somebody that's going to be a checkout clerk, and I also need them to go in the back and run forklifts and be able to unload inventory, product coming in, I maybe need them to do a little bit of accounting. If I need them to do all of these different things there, now it's much more difficult to hire a particular person to be able to fill that role. And I think that that's the issue a lot of times when we are running a strip till applicator. Really, the things that we need to be thinking about is that operator a lot of times needs to be able to manage their electronics, guidance systems, their application maps. They need to be able to understand those. They need to be able to lay out a field, exactly how we want to plant it, exactly how we want to harvest it. Sometimes they need to be able to calibrate fertilizer systems, service the equipment, and one of the big ones is to be able to set that machine and adjust that machine while it's in operation there. So, and then also, of course, work really long hours. And so oftentimes that's when we say talent or when we say management, that's a lot of the times, the struggle is finding the right operator or operators to be able to do that. When it comes to time, the time that it takes us to be able to cover the acres. So, like for instance, if we have a 16-row machine, maybe I have a 24-row planter, but I only have a 16-row strip till bar because I'm limited on horsepower. And so, a 16-row machine, we look at our acres per hour on that. And, sometimes we could say, maybe 20 acres per hour. And if that's the case, if we're averaging 20 acres per hour, on a 16-hour day, pretty big day, that's, maybe 320 acres, or maybe we're only, getting 12 hours in. So, if I'm a grower and I say, okay, well, I have 3,500 acres and I'm going to strip till in a year, we're talking 11 to 15 good days there. And so a lot of times when it comes to the time, that's the challenge. And, a lot of times with strip till, we look at the efficiency of strip till. We look at the ability to be able to apply our perhaps NP and K, to do our tillage, do a lot of these different things, which is really great. Unfortunately, when we are trying to cover, 320 acres in a day, when we're trying to work 16 hours, when we have a breakdown with one of those things, then oftentimes we do have, that means that we're not going to be doing any of those things. And so, that back to that management thing, it's kind of a high stress, pass, or high stress, time. And so really, I mean, the management and the time oftentimes are limited factors. So all that being said, does that mean that, well, if I'm not ready to take on those challenges, that strip till isn't for me? No, certainly not. It's just understanding those challenges and those risks, and then planning accordingly, planning for those. And so that may mean that it's not one tool that we need to carry out our strip till. Perhaps what we need to do is really look at perhaps even multiple tools, or getting one tool and then understanding the full scope of strip till, but getting one tool and then working our way into addressing all of our needs. So really, in that case there, then, we want to focus on our goals. So why is it that we're wanting to go to strip till? Increasing our efficiency, time, inputs. I mean, that's a great way, to lessen our inputs and overall lessen our time involved, versus full width tillage. We're going to concentrate on creating the ideal seed growing environment, and that consistent seed bed, and of course managing the residue is a big key as well. So here I'll introduce the Yetter Strip Freshener CC. This particular strip till unit, Yetter does make a variety of strip till units. This is only one of our options, given that the short period of time here today. Obviously, we can't get into all facets of the strip till that that I've referred to, and really not even all of the Yetter units, but particular here the strip freshener. This is a tool that is designed to go 8 to 10 miles an hour, and that's going to allow us to be able to pull it with lower horsepower requirements. So if I have a 24-row machine, I certainly have the ability to build a 24-row or purchase a 24-row strip till machine that I can pull at 8 to 10 miles per hour. And a lot of times, actually, I'm even able to do that with front wheel assist tractors. So 24-row machines, 350 horse tractors, and pulling them at 8 to 10 8 to 10 miles an hour. That's going to allow me to achieve up to 55 acres per hour on a 24-row machine. So now we start looking at that time involved there, and we start talking about, a 16-hour day, maybe doing 880 acres in a day, or even if we back that off, 12-hour days, certainly we have the opportunity there for 600 acres per day. And now we go back to that same 3,500 acres, and that's something that we're typically able to cover in 4 to 6 days. And not only that, but this is not a particular tool that's going to address every aspect of our strip till all in one pass. It can, but oftentimes if we look at trying to simplify that, so make that management for that operator easier. The CC unit that I'm showing right here, the CC stands for cab control. So almost all of our adjustments on this machine is actually adjusted from the cab. So less downtime, more operating time. And then that allows the operator then to be able to do a very good job, but we're not putting so many stresses or so many constraints on that operator. We're going to manage residue, we're going to make the seed bed, and there's definitely options of when we can run this, but typically we're running this in the springtime right ahead of the planter, which is obviously why it's key to be able to to cover a lot of acres per hour. So there's a little closer up view of the unit, parallel linkage. We have pneumatic control on the downforce, the row cleaner, and the rolling basket in the back, and that's all adjusted from the cab. You can maybe see behind me here, I have a unit back there that has the monitor on it, the in-cab monitor as well. This particular picture right here is showing a 24-row machine. This is on the Fast Duraplacer toolbar. This is a collaboration with Fast Agrisolutions in Minnesota that we introduced just shy of a year ago. So this past year we started offering these machines. And then you can see that this particular one in the background right there has a 2,400 gallon tank on it as well. So large carrying capacity. What we're addressing with this exact machine right here is managing the residue, making the seed bed, making it very consistent right out of the planter, and then applying our nitrogen, for that crop. And then just a few more pictures of it kind of in the field right there. This is also the faster replacer. This is another 24-row machine as well. And then you can see our strips, managing the residue, creating the ideal seed growing environment, just as we said from the beginning, talking about the definition of strip till there. I'll just end with a few more pictures right here. Off to the right, you can see that we're not mixing the residue in. We're moving the residue out of the way, and then making a very consistent seed bed, to be able to plant into. The depth of this will depend a little bit on what our conditions and our timing and everything. But on the right, you can see that picture there is very shallow. We have the ability with this type of machine to be able to do this very, very close to planting, because we can shallow that up so much. So we're putting our seed into, a lot of times actually in virgin ground, actually right below the strip. So everything above that strip gives us uniformity without drying that out and taking all of our moisture out of our strip. Elaboration of a few more pictures there. And so with that, that's all I have. Contact information there. And so I'll turn it back over to Noah. If there's any other questions, we would love to have them.
Yeah, thanks for that. Great presentations, everyone. A good perspective from all of you. Again, if anyone has any questions right now, we have a couple minutes left here. You can go to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and type your questions in now, and we can get to them. But I'll start with one, and anyone can jump in on this one. But Andy, you talked about how strip till's really evolved since you started doing it, and over the past couple decades. And probably one of the biggest things is the time management, as you touched on with the new fast replacer unit. But what would you say are some of the big upgrades or gains in strip till equipment in general that have been made over the years that are really giving people more of an advantage now in making strip till? I don't know if easier is the right word, but easier for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, guidance, auto steer was the big one. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, when auto steer wasn't as prevalent, we were making strips with markers on the strip till machines and then planting on them, and it worked. But certainly now with guidance, and now we're getting into implement guidance as well. That's been the number one key right there. That has made it much, much easier. I think the other part of that is we've done it. I guess really, as I say, we've done it for a generation. I mean, there are some strip tillers out there that they've never known any different. They've grown up around strip till. So I think that right there, just the understanding of that and the experience of that has been a huge key to it. And then ultimately what that's done is that's allowed us to be able to take off some of the caveats or the drawbacks. We've just been able to strip some of those away because we've seen it successful, and we've seen it successful in many ways.
Yeah, and I'll actually expand on that a little bit too. The guidance for sure, but technology in general. Andy mentioned the active implement guidance. We've been doing that, or have had the ability to do that since 2010. But the fertilizer variable rate applications, I would say that we're finally at a point now where growers are using 50% of the time. It's been kind of slow for the adoption, but when we look at different from year to year with input costs and things like that, having the ability to really take advantage of the technology, and that's a way to max investment, lower your input costs. And that's been another big draw for strip till in general, is for grower conventional situation, they're able to lower those input costs. So just technology in general. Then there's other things like block systems and so on and so forth. But the technology and being part of that, like the other two gentlemen here, I've been at about 18 years. I think it's my 18th year in it. And it's been really fun to see the progression and just the innovation that's coming through the industry, and it's changing every year. So that's been the part of it, and I suspect that's going to continue.
Yeah, and I'll concur. The guidance and the technology has made a huge difference. There's also been section control, and we've got blockage sensors now that just make things so much more reliable and so much easier to monitor and make sure that you're doing a good job. I mean, that's been really good, and I think our consistency has gotten really better at getting the fertilizers where we want them in the zone as well.
All right, we have some questions coming in now. This one's for you, Scott. How is the wear on the chains on the back roller?
Yeah, the chains on the striker soil conditioner are a wear item, and in the past we've actually had some problems with that because of the way that we mounted the chains. The chains would rotate on the end links and wear out prematurely. With the ST2 Pro row unit, we have changed the way that we mount the chains so that that doesn't happen. And so the chain wear is much more consistent and they last a lot longer than the first generation of the ST Pro.
Couple questions for Andy and Yetter here. Sharon wants to know, so she's looking to drill for a wheat type application. She wants to know, what is the minimum distance for rows on the strip freshener CC?
There we go. So 20 inch spacing. We have a number of machines that are running on 20 inches. I myself, with my neighbor, we are actually on 20-inch rows. And so I've never really done any narrow work because, at that point in time, we do have to manage the residue. And typically we're going to be managing 10 inches wide. So 10 inches wide, and that allows us to be able to put on a 20-inch spacing, that allows us, 10 inches to put all the residue in between there. So 20 inches, and actually even we have machines that are operating, a lot of 24-row machines, and we actually even have one machine getting built right now that's 48 rows. So 48 row, 22-inch spacing on that one there.
And another person wants to know, how deep can it go?
Yeah, good question. So 4 inches. I see there, asking 4 to 5 inches deep. We can go 4 inches deep with that. Yes, that would be our maximum depth. But certainly, as we see more and more people running them in the fall, we tend to, be running those at the 4-inch depth.
All right. Let's see here.
Yeah, Steve brought up a question on the chat about changes year to year, and that if someone's looking for a tool that's adjustable and easy to adjust is critical. And I would say yes. And I would say strip-till companies striving for that. Downtime costs money, and if you're having to sit there and make all these little tweaks and adjustments, that's just costing you time and money. I'll touch on like our equipment. Yeah, it's I'd say 90 to 95% of your adjustments going to be from the K. All of our downforce is through air pressure. So you're literally making changes on the fly. Having the ability to, and that's kind of where some of the Coulter things comes in nice, having the ability to address a lot of different conditions and not have to stop and make this is absolutely critical, especially when you're in the spring. If you're making strips in the spring, we have such a compressed time frame to work in anyhow that if you're spending more time stripping than you are, that could cause a lot of growers some anxiety. So ease of adjustability is a definite must.
There's another question here in the let's see if you guys can make sense of this one. I'm not sure I'm quite comprehending it, but they say, compare tradition year to year, half row shifting. Which long-term is broadcasting fertilizer versus not shifting, achieving banding on a long-term basis?
So I think what he's talking about there is if basic common question in strip-till, should I shift over or not? So it's really, so for example, if it's a 30-inch row, grower will ask, hey, should I shift over 15 inches or should I shift over 7.5 inches or should I not shift over at all? There's, I don't know what the other guys will answer, but my advice is always, it kind of depends on your crop rotation. It depends on what your preference is. Personally, I always recommend going over that half width. So if you're on 15 inches, shift, or 30, shift over 15. If you're on 22, shift over 11. But some growers, especially if they're on much a 50-50 corn bean rotation, they might run on the same strip over and over again. So it just depends. Branches into fertility testing. Should I test on the rows, between the rows, and so on and so forth when I'm doing my soil samples? So that's a real, and it opens up quite a bit of discussion.
And coming from the coon side, I'll just say that for the Gladiator, we do normally recommend shifting over 15 inches since we're generally a 30-inch machine. But we do have customers, and like Andy said, it depends on the crops you're growing, whether you can actually go right back down the same strip. But I do know that even though we don't really recommend it, we have corn-on-corn guys that can take the Gladiator and go back down the same strip and go right through the root ball and everything. So it's kind of a loaded question, I guess, but there's a lot of answers to that question, I think.
Andy, someone wants to know, what is your rated horsepower per row?
Yeah, so 10 horsepower on that strip freshener, or the CC unit that I showed, 10 horsepower per row. If we had the fertilizer systems on there, that's going to add a little bit as well. So, I mentioned a 24-row machine and 350 horsepower. 350 horsepower, obviously that's more than, the 10 per row, but, that's certainly going to give us, adequate to handle our fertilizer as well. So I'm going to say 10, maybe, 12 horsepower per row. And then also, I guess back on that fertilizer thing, oftentimes somebody will ask, do I move over, how far or whatever. It's not, I think I can speak for all the manufacturers here. It's not necessarily a can, will it plug or won't it plug or anything like that. It's where do we get the most, consistency and the best performance. And that's why I would agree with Dave and Scott here. By moving over, splitting that other side, so it's 15 inches or 10 inches, depending on your row spacing, that's just where we're going to achieve the most consistent strip, the most consistent results. Can we go over 7 or 8 inches? Yeah, probably you could do something in that. And in some scenarios, that does make sense. But that's really why we're not necessarily always going right back on top of the old row. It's not that we can't. It's just that, when we have old root ball, tap roots, things like that, it's a little bit more difficult to make a consistent seed bed for the following crop.
All right, well, we're getting close to 11 o'clock here. So, we have some comments coming in. Brian says, thank you, everyone. Very good and informative. I agree. This has been very informative. Before we wrap things up, I guess, Steve, do you have anything else you want to share, or any last words or anything?
No, I just, again, like to thank the gentlemen from Kuhn and ETS and Yetter for being here. I think it added some much needed content that I think our audience certainly benefited from, and like the guys have said, a lot of their tools that you're seeing here, these guys have been in this business for a long time. They value your opinion and certainly want to hear from you on what challenges you guys are facing, because they're here to design tools to suit your needs. So thanks to the guys for showing up today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone watching right now, if you missed something or you want to go back and watch it again or share this presentation with someone, we will be posting the recording on our No-Till Farmer YouTube page on strip-tillfarmer.com, and you'll also get it emailed to you as well if you registered for the webinar, which of course you are because you're watching right now. So we'll have a recording of this. This will get released here soon, so you'll be able to go back and watch anything. So that'll do it here. Again, we want to thank Steve, Scott, Andy, and Dave here for joining us this morning. And let us know if you have any future ideas for webinars or any topics you'd like to see covered. Just shoot me an email at nnewman@lessitermedia.com. But hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.